Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from Radnor Studio 21, and we're also being broadcast into Lower Merion Township. Yay! We've activated Channel 99 on the Comcast network. And we like to tell you who's doing what in the community as far as charities, academia, politics, important events going on. And we have a very interesting person. I've only just met her, but I heard about her for a long time before I was able to snare her for Bonnie's Beat. Her name is Estelle Benson. She's the founder and director of the Guillain-Barré syndrome. Blah, 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 blah. I can't pronounce the other words, and I'll let Estelle tell you what's the rest of the title.
Thank you, Bonnie. We're new, young best friends.
Yes.
No, my name is Estelle Benson. I'm from Philadelphia, born and raised here, Olney High School, Temple University, and true and blue area person.
And now living in Ballackinwood.
Now I live in Ballackinwood, right. But it's interesting. I was married 59 years, and 36 years ago, November the 16th, my husband had a very bad cold. Very athletic person. Played at football, tennis, he ran the track at Lower Merion High School, and he was always very involved athletically. Got a bad cold, and maybe a touch of pneumonia. And a week later, he was completely paralyzed from a cold. Nobody knew what it was. They tested him for this and that, myasthenia gravis, nothing. They could not find out until one doctor said, I had a friend who had Guillain-Barré syndrome. What in the world is that? Well, people were getting it after the swine flu shot, so I remembered it, although he did not have the swine flu shot. So that was in 1976, and this was in 1979. So I wrote the name down and kept it in my pocket, because if people said, what does your husband have? I had no idea. I couldn't even pronounce it. Now I've learned how to pronounce it. And he was so bad, there was no treatment, there was nothing to do, and I vowed while he was in ICU for so many weeks that we would do something about it. It is, I found out later, the only reversible neurologic disorder, and it did turn around. And a year later, I kept my promise. We started with 8 people in our home, and now we are 40,190 chapters in 46 countries. I can't believe it.
46 countries.
Mm-hmm. We travel the world.
Well, let me read the rest of Estelle's title. It's the Guillain-Barré syndrome. We'll have to put it up on the screen because nobody knows how to spell it. It's French, Guillain-Barré with an accent aigu syndrome. Chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy.
Beautiful. CIDP. CIDP. What happened is we had Guillain-Barré syndrome. We raised money for research. Of course, it evolved into something beautiful. I'm so proud of the organization. And then we realized there's a chronic form of Guillain-Barré where it doesn't go away. Not that it really always goes away, but it just would. Some people would regress, and then they would get better, and then regress. And these are the hangers-oners. And we realized we had to pay attention to them. They needed us. So we officially changed our name from GBS Foundation to the GBS CIDP. It's like an alphabet soup, with all these letters. Then there's MMN, which is multifocal motor neuropathy. That's another variant. And it goes on and on. They're all kissing cousins of Guillain-Barré syndrome. So we are the umbrella organization. And as I said, we have 4 pillars. We have support, research, education, and advocacy.
Now, what happened to your husband after that doctor diagnosed that it was Guillain-Barré?
Well, interestingly enough, with insurance the way it was in that time, he was able to be in the hospital, and then he was at McGee rehab for 5 months.
5 months.
Yeah.
Oh.
So today they shorten up a little bit today, but and there were no treatments. All they did was give him steroids, and interestingly enough, for him to sleep and for pain at night, They were afraid to slow him up any more than he had been from the paralysis. They gave him wine to drink. So he was the only one in ICU with a bottle of wine in his night table. But we got through it one way or another, and little by little, as I said, it is the only reversible neurologic disorder for which we're very grateful. Not everybody, the curious thing is you don't know how badly you'll be affected. You don't know how long that'll take, when it will reverse, and what will return, because a lot of people are left with chronic residuals. Some people never get out of a wheelchair.
Well, I have my late friend, Morton Weinstock, his wife, Phyllis Weinstock, is a realtor in this region. He had Guillain-Barré some years ago, and initially he was paralyzed the way your husband was. And Phyllis took him to every clinic in the United States of America, and he came back like 90%. The one thing that he was left with, like a tingling, a loss of feeling in his extremities, in his feet, and in his hands.
Because it's a peripheral neuropathy. It starts and begins in the outer muscles of the body and the nerves, and it ascends the body. Of course, then there's another variant, the Miller-Fisher, which starts up and goes down a little bit, but now we're getting technical, and I would be sued for medical malpractice if I told you anymore.
Do you have an honorary doctor's degree or nurse's degree or whatever?
Absolutely.
You must have done a lot of reading and a lot of research.
Well, it was a lot, but we were fortunate. Interestingly enough, at that time, in the beginning, I wrote to 32, we had 32 hospitals in the area in 1979, 1980. And I wrote to them all. I told them of our desire, of what we would do. And there was one person, Dr. Arthur Asbury at the University of Pennsylvania, who called me and said, Estelle, you're the part of the puzzle we're missing, the patient relationship to the other patients.
Isn't that interesting?
And walking into a hospital, seeing somebody completely paralyzed saying, I was like you are, just hang in there, it'll get better. Wow, then you start to begin to believe the doctors, because when you're paralyzed, you don't think you'll ever live. So Dr. Asbury was my mentor. We have a marvelous medical advisory board. They are the think tank of neuromuscular neurology in the world.
Does anybody know, did they ever find out what causes Guillain-Barré syndrome?
Oh, we have a lot of triggers. There's the immune system actually makes a terrible mistake and attacks itself. When anything
Is it a
should
virus?
Happen, no, it's not a virus. It can be precipitated. It can be caused by a virus. It can be caused by dental work. It can be caused by pregnancy. We have a group of pregnant people who deliver paralyzed, which is fun. We have range from 6 months old to 97 years. So there's no really rhyme or reason to this. It's a very peculiar condition. So it's been quite a trip.
How many people in the United States are affected by Guillain-Barré each year? Do you have any idea?
It's 1 to 2 out of every 100,000. So
that's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. The only thing is the curious part is, are they diagnosed correctly? Because not too many people, not too many neurologists see this. If they see one in the entire time that they're in practice, it's a lot. Sometimes they say they've never, in fact, we get calls where somebody will say, oh, Mrs. Benson, you have to write me up. I have the worst case. My doctor said it's the worst case he's ever seen. Well, how many has he seen? The only one. So if somebody's paralyzed, it scares the heck out of them. So.
Yeah. Where do you send the money that you raise to foster research? Are there particular centers?
We have a whole process. First of all, we never lost sight of why we started the organization, and that's to help Guillain-Barré people, or CIDP, or any of the variants. My husband and I vowed that nobody would ever be alone with Guillain-Barré, because it's a very frightening. It's catastrophic to be well one day and paralyzed the next. It's scary, especially when you don't know what it is. So we have our 190 chapters tend to these people. They'll go visit in the hospital. They'll have chapter meetings all over the country, and we train the liaisons how to do it, what to say, because everybody is different. Of our 40,000, there are no two same timelines. So we have to adapt to everybody's needs and the way they present. We have, fortunately, been the recipients of some very generous people, and we do 4 research projects a year. The letter of intent is submitted, it's reviewed by a scientific review committee, and then it's decided upon and we fund them. In addition to which, they have just started the Robert Benson Fellowship in Neuromuscular Neurology.
Where?
Well, we put it out and we had 40 people apply. 10 people were the finalists. It was down to 3, and at our last symposium, it was like the American Idol, you know, who's going to win? And all 3 presented their research project, and a young woman, a doctor from the Netherlands, is now doing it.
From the Netherlands?
Yeah.
How much money is attached to the Robert Benson?
$150,000 a year. A year.
For how many years?
3.
That's fantastic.
And then we start another one next year. So we're very proud of that.
That's
then
wonderful.
Another patient who has another variant.
I assume Robert Benson is your husband.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So he passed away 3 years ago from something completely unrelated, unfortunately.
What?
Cancer. Anyway, so we do that. Then somebody else started a fellowship in a very rare form of Guillain-Barré, and so that was just awarded. It's not quite as much, but we were very proud of that.
How many medical journals do you read in the course of a month?
I read them. I don't understand them, but I read them. Anything that comes across my desk, I am very interested in. I'm starting to worry because I'm beginning to understand what they mean. But, you know, it's very technical. Neurology, a lot of shades of gray. It's hard to put your finger on it. And, you know, because of the efforts of the organization, the treatments have become standard. We have used IVIG, which is intravenous immunoglobulin, and it helps.
Intravenous immunoglobulin. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
IVIG. It's easier to say that.
IVIG.
And plasmapheresis. What's plasmapheresis, Bonnie?
Well, plasma is blood, and I don't know what pheresis means.
It's a washing of the blood.
Oh.
The big machine where they take and they wash your blood and they put it back in and they take out some, you know.
Bad stuff.
Bad stuff. But to be very elementary.
You said something about a symposium.
Yes, 28 years ago, I said to my husband, when we started to hear about from people all over the country, gee, these people call from North Dakota, and you say, they had Guillain-Barré in North Dakota. My God, it's bad enough. Here we are, we don't know what's happening, and we have a city rich in medical practices and research and everything. So I said, we should have one meeting where we bring everybody together and bring the best of our neurologists and let the people pick their brains. It's like a free office visit. Bring to them the best information. And we had our first one in Philadelphia in 1988. And next year we
How many people came to that one?
500.
For the first time, and you had 500 attendees?
I had no idea what I was doing, Bonnie. I had no idea. But they loved it. So we do it every other year. It takes time to do it right. And we go cross country. We go from one side of the country to the other to accommodate people, north, south, east, west. So we alternate. And next year it will be in San Antonio.
Have you had any in California?
Yes.
Where your son, Howard Benson, the Grammy Award-winning record producer, lives, who just got an honorary degree from Drexel University.
Oh my God, you threw that in too. And well, anyway, yes, we've been out there twice, and we do meetings all over, you know. It's interesting how it brings a family together. Our other son, Mitchell, who's very, you know, active in the community in Philadelphia. The family learns a lot when something catastrophic happens to a parent.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So,
Are you always looking for volunteers? Well, let's put the contact information on the screen.
good. We're always looking.
www.gbs-cidp.org, and the phone number is 610-667-0131. And your headquarters is right in Narberth, right?
Right in Narberth. We're 104 and a half Forest Avenue. And when I do fundraising, they say, why the half? I say, because we can't afford a full address. So we're very happy with our location. You know, it's very generic, but we have 6, 7 people now in the office, and they're very devoted. One actually had GBS and one had CIDP.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's very nice. And the 4th of November, we're doing this
Okay.
further.
Got to show this on screen. Julia, can you get a little closer, you think? I don't know. Anyway, this is the celebration, and they're honoring a California Congressman, John Garamendi, who has 2 children.
Two daughters separately, 10 years apart, had Guillain-Barré syndrome. They were serving in the Peace Corps, and you know, it's interesting how when things happen, it piques your curiosity. Gee, maybe there is a connection. Maybe we should get some swabbing for DNA and see why is there a familial tendency to have this. It's not the first family in which it has occurred.
Did both the daughters recover?
Yes, one became a doctor, one became a nurse, and they're fine. They're wonderful.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, we're very happy.
Well,
and our executive director now, her father-in-law had Guillain-Barré, and then
what's her name?
Lisa Butler.
And is she in your headquarters in Narberth?
She is, and her father-in-law had Guillain-Barré many years ago, and 12, 13 years her son came down. But he had a dreadful case of Guillain-Barré at 5.5 years old.
A child? I never heard of a child contracting it.
And now he's fine. He's wonderful. He just started college, so thank goodness we're so happy for that.
Oh, wow. Okay, this special 35th anniversary celebration of GBS CIDP Foundation International will take place on Wednesday, November 4th in Washington, D.C., with a reception at 6:30, a dinner at 7:30, and this is one of the most illustrious lists of committee people that I've ever seen anywhere.
Oh, come on, Bonnie, you see everything.
I know, but this is unbelievable. The MC is going to be Congressman Steny Hoyer. The honorary chairs are Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, Congressman Tom Cole, and the dinner chairs are Ralph Nees, whom you mentioned already, and Patty Garamendi, who is the congressman's wife, who also is, what does she chair?
President of the Peace Corps.
Oh, not too shabby. Look at all the names. Tom Harkin, the former senator. Oh, our former Congressman Jim Greenwood, who is the head of Bio.
Mm-hmm.
Look at oh my goodness, look at these names. This is unbelievable.
And we're also giving the Estelle Benson Award. Did you see that? And
the Estelle Benson Volunteer Award is going to individuals who have demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to the mission and goals of the GBS CIDP Foundation International. Each individual reflects one of the 4 pillars upon which we base our purpose: support, education, research, and advocacy. Is any one of the 4 winners from the Philadelphia region?
Actually, they started yes. Well, Cassandra Ulrich is from Ohio. She is a patient, and she has given 200% of herself to helping chapters and people get connected, et cetera, as a volunteer. She's also on our board. And the one for education is Kenneth Gorson, who is from Philadelphia.
Doctor, MD.
MD. He's at St. Elizabeth Hospital, and he does these wonderful meetings for helping people manage their condition, especially managing CIDP, making sure it's the right diagnosis, making sure they get the proper treatment, because so many are ill-advised. And the second is David Kornblath, who is now at Johns Hopkins.
Another MD.
David was a resident at Penn when Dr. Asbury sent him to my first meeting in my home. He walked in as a resident, and now he's at Hopkins and he's world famous.
Fantastic.
So I knew him when.
Yes.
And the third is Stuart Butler, who is Lisa's son, who had Guillain-Barré at 5.5.
Oh.
And he's getting the advocacy. He represents the youth. And
You have to have a millennial. You got to have a millennial in there, right?
And we've been to Washington many times. They've been on the Hill. They have their, we work with different organizations down there.
What about the CDC? Do you have any relationship with them?
No, they refer people to us.
They do?
Yeah, they call up and they'll say, I have this strange thing, Guillain-Barré syndrome. And listen, on March 17th, on St. Patrick's Day, people call. They think we're Gillian's Bar. They say do serving happy hour. So we could write a book about, actually Guillain-Barré, this is interesting, are the names of 2 French doctors. There were 5, Landry, Stroll, and this last one escapes my mind. And they, in 1918, discovered the, or no, it's 1916. They identified it with soldiers in the French army, and it was identified, and of course they documented things that happened, the process, etc., the outcome, what they went through, and the readings and everything. So I think Guillain-Barré won out in the research because the others are never heard of anymore. Because of this, next June in Glasgow, at the Peripheral Nerve Society meeting, we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the identification of Guillain-Barré syndrome.
100 years.
So we will be there. We are going to do it upright. We're going to have 100 stories of all the people, so many people who've gone through this, because everybody has their own story.
You have 190 chapters, you said, around the world.
46 countries.
What kind of a budget do you need in order to service 190 chapters?
It's interesting. It just happened. It happened. I'm a good fundraiser, but we don't. Okay, let's talk about our people. We are the only health organization for a condition which does not charge dues. Now you think about that. When we started, as I said, my husband and I said, we do not want anybody alone with Guillain-Barré again. And we would not deny them the information, the literature, the communicator, our newsletter, our symposia, because they couldn't afford. We have suggested dues. If they want to pay $25, they can. And some of them have opened their hearts and their pocketbooks to us because they see what it is. Our office is in Narberth. It's very generic. We don't have marble floors or a receptionist. So people know where their money, when they give money, they know where it goes. And people have been very generous. So we do walks. We started with, we call it walk and roll. Our logo, I should have brought something with me. I think it's in here. Our logo, the logo has like a simulated wheelchair would be, where you can either walk or be in a wheelchair or go with braces or whatever. And that has raised, we raised $215,000 this year because of that.
Where did the walk take place?
All over. We've done so many walks this year, maybe 15, 20 so far in different cities. And so the money just comes and...
Now, are you a paid executive director or you donate your
No.
services?
I left school. You know, I taught school for 35 years.
Oh, what did you teach?
Well, I was a music teacher for 35 years in the Philadelphia public school system, and I loved every minute of it. And then I got a principal certificate from Villanova University, and I thought I would become a principal, and then I became a house director of a middle school as it went from junior high. Remember the old junior highs?
Yes.
Now they're middle schools. So I was like a mini principal of this school at Bieber Junior High.
Oh,
In
I spent a
Winfield.
couple years at Beaver Junior High School. Yes.
So I love teaching, and then when this started, it was at the same time, and I realized, oh my goodness, we're starting something here. There's nobody else to do it. So I left teaching. I gave up a lot. I gave up a lot of, you know, benefits and stuff like that. But I realized this is my cause, and I had
This is your
another
calling.
I had another half a person because they would come in part time, maybe 2-3 days a week. So it was like 1.5 people running it. And now we're up to 6-7 people. I'm very proud of it.
That's
Yeah,
terrific.
Yeah.
What do you do in your spare time? Do you ever have any spare time, Estelle
No.
Benson?
I sit on the board of NORD, the National Organization for Rare Disorders. Do you know about that?
Yes.
There are 7,000 rare disorders which affect 30 million people.
Mm.
And we do a rare disease day, and we have, we help people get started. So I do consulting for people who are stricken by a rare disorder.
It's interesting
And-
because there have been a lot of articles recently about the orphan diseases, that so few people are stricken with certain diseases that it doesn't pay the pharmaceutical companies to do the research and invest in creating drugs
The
to
R&Ds,
combat this.
that's right,
Yeah.
the Research and Development. That's why we
Yeah.
started the Orphan Disease Act, the
Yes.
Orphan Drug Act. And we also, because of the efforts of NORD, established the Office of Rare Disorders at NIH.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we have been working with them. They have been wonderful. They come to our symposium and speak. And it's terrible. You know, you talk to a mother whose daughter only maybe 5 in the country who
Yeah.
has this rare disorder. Right. And people say, oh, why should we develop? Why should we help? There's no money, and it's just 5 people taking the drug.
Right.
Think about that. But thank goodness that the government and the people are realizing the plight of this community.
Well, if people want to support the Guillain-Barré syndrome, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy
You have to come work for me.
Foundation, let's put that information back up
Terrific.
on the screen again.
Wonderful.
They can call 610-667-0131, or they can go to the website www.gbs-cidp.org. Yes, CIDP is much easier
Isn't that?
to say. Yes, absolutely. Now, if you have a magic wand, what would you like to see? It looks like you've covered all the territory could possibly be covered, but you must have a wish list still for the future. What is it?
Well, we would like to find out why. Why? You know, when people ask me, and people who have really absolutely no medical background, and they can't conceive of an immune system, so you try to put it in very simplistic terms. And having been a teacher, you know how you have to reduce
Yes.
things down to Dick and Jane. So I always say, are you allergic to bee stings? Are you? Are you? Are you allergic to bee
I
stings?
am.
Okay. I'm not. Why? What is it in our immune system that makes you allergic? And a bee could come and sting me, wouldn't even feel it. I would just brush it off, and that would be it.
Oh, no.
So, see that?
I got stung by a yellow jacket as an adult. As a kid, it never bothered me. But as an adult, got stung on the inside of my thigh, and an hour later, I had like a basketball, bright red, on my thigh. Went right to the emergency room. Yeah.
It's scary. It's
Very scary.
Okay, but why didn't everybody blow up? See? So it's something in the immune system. And that is the question I would love to have answered. Why do people get Guillain-Barré syndrome? Why my husband and not somebody else?
Right. Well, our guest today has been Estelle Benson, who is the founder and the executive director of the GBS-CIDP Foundation International right in Narberth, although it's worldwide. And it's been a pleasure
This is
learning
so
from
nice.
you,
Thank you.
Estelle. Thank you so much, and good luck with your fundraiser on November 4th.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
We'll see everybody next week.